Good, I'm good. Thank you. I thought we were using Zoom, so the whole thing was just
Yeah, it's all good.
taking ages and all of that. So yeah, I apologize.
How's and how's lockdown been? Lockdown point.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's been okay. It's been
We're just
fine.
used to it now. We're just used to it.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think a lot of people are a lot of people would probably struggle if they were um I don't know. Like I think being an athlete or
yeah.
former athlete, I think it's first of all it's allowed you to put a lot of things into perspective, but it's
Mm.
also you also live a very selfish and isolated life anyway. So
Yep,
it shouldn't
I
be.
agree.
I'm not one of them people where I need to be around people all the time. That's just not me. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. How's it
yeah.
been for you?
It's been a bit tedious. A lot of Netflix, a lot more cooking, a lot of cooking, a lot of just playing board games and stuff.
Oh, for
That's
real?
Yeah, stuff to do. It's Scrabble, stuff to do. Bit of poker, but obviously not real money, but we just. But yeah, so what was it like um growing up here, the champions?
Of course, of course.
It's actually my team, I'm not just wearing it because I'm talking to you.
I was
They're
gonna
my
say that would
Nah,
be.
they're actually my team.
Oh, thanks. What was it like growing up in Liverpool? It was it was fun. You know what I mean. I had a great childhood. I come from a big family, so I had like nine, no, eight siblings, nine including myself.
Wow.
There's a big age gap because I have half siblings, so the older ones is I have 17-year age gap, so I didn't see my dad's kids that he
Mm.
had with his first wife, and then they split up and then he married my mom and then had four with my mom. So my immediate siblings, the ones who I grew up with, they were
Yeah.
just fun. I had three, so two sisters, one brother, and yeah, it was good. Everyone played sports pretty much. Everyone enjoyed some sort of physical activity for the most part. Growing up, we were always physically active, always growing, always driving my mum and dad absolutely mad.
Mm.
Um, and then growing up in Liverpool, it was it was different. I think it was. I think looking to how looking at the different places where I've lived and travelled and kind of experienced life, I think it's very different to
Mm.
how maybe the average person may have seen it. So like when I lived in London for 4 years, those were like very I had so many teachable moments. Like
Mm.
for example, like a lot like I remember my first GB team that I made back in gosh when I was like 16 I think, 17.
Yeah.
So a long, long time ago. And a lot of the guys on the team were like, "Oh my gosh, you're from Liverpool." Like we just thought there was only ever mixed race people there because there was
Yeah.
only ever mixed race people.
Hmm.
And as I grew up and I guess I moved to London, I, I began to see that that was always a thing.
Mm.
There's a lot of interracial couples. There's a
Yeah.
lot of mixed race kids. Whereas in Liverpool, I didn't really see as much. There's a massive black community, yes. There's a massive Nigerian community, which is my heritage, but I didn't really see as much like black kids as I say if you grow up in like a big urban city like London.
Yeah.
So those years that I lived in London, I got to see like
Mm.
girls who were like me and just living life and just being like the
Mm.
best version of themselves. Whereas when you're surrounded by a lot of white people, it can be difficult because you're kind of made to feel like you're appeasing them or you're not really comfortable within yourself. People make fun of your hair or your features or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but growing up in Liverpool for the most part was great. Everyone in Liverpool was friendly. Everyone's very welcoming. People who are outside Liverpool always say, "Oh my gosh, Scousers are like this, like
Mm.
that," and that's what I love about being from Liverpool.
And whereabouts in Liverpool? Was it Toxteth or?
It was actually Wavertree, so
Oh,
it wasn't too far from the training centre where I grew up, where I used to train, where
mm.
kind of my career started.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So was you doing any sports prior to athletics yourself?
I did. What did I do? I enjoyed football, but then I got kicked in the stomach
Oh, no.
playing a game. So I was just like, ugh, I didn't like that. Netball, I was huge fan of netball when I was in school. I played it. Wasn't really that good. I was okay. But I always wanted to do it because like my friends were really good at it. But then athletics, track and field, that was like my baby. That was kind of where it pretty started for me. So yeah.
With the football, you are Liverpool, not Everton.
Definitely Liverpool.
Good.
Definitely Liverpool.
So was there a particular race you had which made you think yes, I can do this professionally as a career? You started to believe it could happen, or did it just?
I'm trying to think. Probably when I didn't know you could actually do it as a career. I knew you could, but I didn't know how it actually went about it. You know, when you grow up in the UK compared to like somewhere like the US, in the US they have the collegiate system. So, you know, you go into college and you get a scholarship if you're, you know, not an academic, but if you excel in a particular sport. Whereas in the UK, you kind of go through the same educational system where you go through school and then college or uni and then you do uni and then you kind of figure things out. Whereas I think it was winning the English schools at intermediate level in 2001, which is like yonks ago. And that was pretty much where I thought, yes, this is kind of what I want to do. I never knew how good I was because it was always a big south divide. So English schools, I don't know what it's like now, but you know, back then it was always Midlands were always the rowdy ones, Londoners were always the rowdy ones, Kent, Middlesex, all these counties down south were always the ones, always giving it loads of talk and just being all like, who are you? Who are you? We're coming to take the title. Da, 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 da. So then there's little old me from Liverpool, from the county of Merseyside, and then I won English schools. And then I was super shocked, but like just in awe and just happy of that moment. And then 2 weeks later, I got a call up for by team management at under 18 level, I think it was, or under 19 level, to represent Great Britain in a competition, GB versus France versus Italy in France. So I think from then, that's when it became real. And then I went to France, competed really well, and then towards the end of the season, they had another GB versus USA competition in the UK. So that was in Stoke, at Stoke Stadium. So I think from that moment on, it was just a case of like figuring out what it is I want to do and how I want to go about it. And then my career the junior transition wasn't easy. So after that, it was just a case of figuring things out. You know, the following year wasn't a great one, but then the year after, I made the European Junior Championships and I medaled and I ran a PB in 100 meters. So it was just cool. But then, taking it to senior level was just different.
Yeah. So who was your first coach in athletics?
My first coach was a guy called Stan Roberts. So he actually scouted me on a sports day at school, because we used to do this. Our sports day was always taking part at Waywardshire Athletic Centre, and that's where all the schools would go and compete, and Stan was there, and he'd always, poach kids, not poach per se, but he'd always go and find the next big talent. And I always knew who this man was, and I think he'd asked me a year or 2 years prior, but I wasn't really a person who was going to step out my comfort zone where I liked being around other people, especially because I went to all-girls school. I didn't really enjoy interaction outside of my immediate circle. So in order for me to do that, that means I'd have to interact with other people who I didn't really know of. So yeah, Stan, this particular year, I cleaned up at school sports day. So I won 100 meters, 200, 400, 4x1, 4x4. And it was just medal after medal after, accolade and trophy. And he was like, okay, I'm getting sick and tired of this now. Are you going to join the club or not? And then, yeah, I think the following day, I understood what he meant. You know, I enjoyed the aspect of just running and feeling free and just learning about this sport. And, you know, I didn't know how talented I was back then. All I knew was that I was beating everyone. So, yeah, I'm grateful for Stan and everything he did for me when I was young.
Yeah, so outside of athletics, you mentioned having a lot of siblings and stuff. Would you say, have you got any role models outside of athletics that you look up to?
Yes, I've got a few. Gosh, my list is endless.
Shut them up.
Okay, so my first one, my huge idol is Serena Williams.
Oh, of course.
So Serena, it's just been, she's everything that you could ever want in a role model. You know, she remains authentic. You know, she's world class. She's unstoppable. She's been world number one countless times. She's got like
Grand
17,
Slams.
15 Grand Slams. Yeah. So, and she's still going. So every time people have told her no, she's always just found a way to say yes, even after having a child and having complications during childbirth. She's been able to get back to even better. And then I met her as well at the London 2012 Olympics, which was just like, yeah, I was just in awe. Yeah, I was, and she was just so regular and just like so calm and everything. So there's Serena Williams. There's I was a massive LA Lakers fan, so I also was a huge fan of Kobe Bryant. You know, it was really sad that he passed away last year. So. Yeah. He you know, he did a lot for loads of athletes globally, or loads of kids globally, and I also met him as well at the Beijing Olympics.
Oh wow!
So yeah, him and LeBron James together, like that was just like a moment. So yeah, that was just like so incredible. And again, like the likes of LeBron are still going. Like now he's a Laker. You know, before he was at Cleveland, and I think he was at Miami as well. Yeah. So yeah, to see how he's doing now, and then Lakers won the league last year. So it was just sick. Gosh, who else? Lewis Hamilton, obviously. Yeah, obviously. And then homegrown, probably Steven Gerrard. So Liverpool, you know, Stevie G was always the one when I was growing up. So yeah.
So what was it like getting the silver at the Commonwealths in the relay? That must have been special for you.
Which one?
2006.
Oh yeah, it was. That was throwback. That was pretty much what set things off, to be honest. Just because at the time, you know, like I said, the transition from junior to senior was difficult. It wasn't an easy transition to make, and I actually didn't make from 2003. I didn't put on a vest until like I didn't go to a championship until 2005. Well, for my age group, I think I did under 23 level, but then making that under 23 levels only there to keep the athletes in the sport, and then it's your job to, you know, fight your way into senior level. But at that time, I was finding it hard, and then 2005, I actually had a breakthrough that towards the end of the season. I had a bad European Championships, European Under-23 Championships. And then 2 weeks later, I went and ran a PB in the 100 and 200. And then because I was having a great end of season, I then got a call up for Melbourne Commonwealth Games that was going to take place in 6 months' time. So yeah, it just gave me purpose, you know, going into winter training. I really enjoyed it. And then just the opportunity to go to Australia, you know. So I got there, got to compete in the 100 and then the 4x1. And I said, I'm not going to come away without a medal. And, you know, I'm extremely thankful that I was able to do so, because that pretty much was the start of my senior career.
Yeah. So you got the silver medal, but was it just a little bit of a disappointment? Was in your individual, you could only reach the semis?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, no one wants to come away, you know, thinking, oh, I only put in, you know, minimal effort, and you want to just focus on the relay. Like, no, that's not it. That was never me coming up in the sport. That was never what I wanted to achieve. It was always about what I wanted to do in the individual as an individual athlete, and then the relay was always a bonus. So, to miss out on moments like that, just missing out on the final by, a couple of hundredths of a second, it adds up because you just think, oh, you're so close. But I think you also need to go through those losses in your career because you need to experience failure to know, to have an understanding about how hungry you are and how badly you want something. Like none of the world class athletes have ever encountered like a complete career of just like a nice transition. It was never that. You go through peaks and troughs throughout your career, and I definitely went through that. Hence why, halfway through my career, in the later years, I ended up switching events and becoming extremely world class at that. So yeah, I'm grateful for the failures that I had because it never would have made me into, a world class athlete. But I definitely had an understanding of it looking back, in those moments where I just miss out on the final because you have, like I said, teachable moments, and you have a better understanding about what it is that you want to achieve later on down the line.
Yep. So Masua Koto is a footballer that used to play for Tottenham, and he said something which I've heard a few other sportsmen and women say. He basically had an interview and he said, "I don't really enjoy football. It's just my job." I was going to ask, it doesn't seem like it with you because you've always got a smile on your face, like you was happy with what you was doing. It's your passion rather than
it was like, I think it was because you got this gift, and a lot of people aren't blessed with this type of gift, like the ability to run fast in a straight line or on a curve in a straight line or run around the track or jump throw, sprint, just to have the ability to do that and to do it consistently at an elite level. It was extremely hard, and I don't regret going down that career path at all because like I said, I went through a lot and I had a lot of teachable moments, but I wouldn't have changed it for anything. But I just never ever wanted to be like, okay, I'm going to stop now, halfway through or when things weren't going well in the early years. Because it's funny because I get a lot of people, like every time I'd be on TV in a Diamond League or the British Champs or a championship, the Worlds or Olympics, Commonwealth Games, anytime it was on TV, the same people who were competing against me when I was a junior were always beating me. So I get girls messaging me or people or guys who I was on teams with, and they were really, really amazing athletes. But then they were really, really good junior athletes, and then they never made the transition to senior through injury, through personal problems or whatever. So then to see these guys years later then message me, I don't know, on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and just be like, oh, I remember when I used to be on teams with you, or I remember when we used to do club races together. I can't believe you're doing all this. And they always say the same thing. That could have been me. That could have been me. I was, those people who say, oh yeah, I should have gone to the Olympics or I should have gone to the World Champs. That was me. That was my moment. And I don't believe that there's any malicious intent towards it in terms of what they're saying. But I just never wanted to be one of those people who was like, working a 9 to 5, and then when the Olympic comes on, you're adamant that you want to watch it, but at the same time, it's like, gosh, that could have been me, that could have been me. That should have been me. I missed my moment. So, and because I get a lot of that, I'm not saying that it helped like my career in a sense, like it helped me think, I can't do that, but it definitely allows me, like I said, to put things into perspective. So with that, it allows me to enjoy my job. A lot, like I said, you go through a lot of ups and downs in the sport, but I think you also have a lot of teachable moments, and there was definitely a lot of that.
So in that 2006, you was at the Athletics World Cup, weren't you?
I was.
Was that the one where there was a lane mix-up with America for the relay?
Oh my gosh, yes, you got a good memory.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I was already hanging at the end of that season anyway, because that was like the longest season, oh my gosh, ever. I think I've ever had, because that particular year, like you've already mentioned, it was the Commonwealth Games in 2006. And before that, in order to show form, most of the athletes who were competing for Team England also had to compete during the indoor season. So I don't think any of us were allowed to go to the World Indoors, which are taking place in Moscow that season. But they wanted to, if you were like a sprinter or jumper, you had to show some type of form. So I did, a whole indoor season, or I did at least 5-6 races. Then I went to Australia for like 6 weeks. You do the outdoor season there. So you got like 3 races before the Commonwealth Games, championship. And then you do the Commonwealth Games, and then you've literally got, it's April, and you've got 6 weeks to the outdoor season. And then my season starts in May. So say like the counties that would take place in Bedford, county championships or whatever, you do Bedford, and then the season starts June, July, August, September. And because we medaled at Europeans, we got a silver medal at the 4x1, we then got invited to the World Cup. So the season went on till literally the end of September. It was like 25th, 26th. So manic. It was extremely manic. I was so fatigued, I was tired, but they said, listen, there's like 70 bills on the line. Worst case scenario, we finish 4th and we get like 40 or 50 G's. Back then, there was a lot of money going around in the sport. Like, I think it was like, it might have been like 80. Actually, I think it was like 80 for the winner, 80, 70K. So me and the girls worked out, we can beat this team, obviously USA, Jamaica, and then whoever. But we had, back then we were doing pretty well that season. So we felt like we had a good chance. And then I was starting, so I was first leg, and I was passing it to, I think, Emma Anya, then Emily Freeman, and then Joyce Madwaka. And I think we were on the inside lane. So I think we were in lane 4 and USA were in lane 5. And because there was it was, going out live on TV, they were running behind. It was taking place in Athens, Greece. So it was running behind. It was a 2-day event. There was only our track event was like the last one, I think, or second to last. They were already delayed by a couple of minutes. So it was literally take you to your place for each relay runner. And then, everyone knows what lane that they're in. And then you mark it out. So I didn't have to mark out anything, but you know what lane you're in. So the American girl who was in the lane next to me, I think it was I think she thought she was in 4, and I was like, no, I'm in 4, you guys are in 5. And she's like, no, something like that. And then anyway, again, the Russian us, like, get ready, tracksuits off, and it's like, it's go time. So I was like all excited. The gun goes, and the American girl he's on outside of my lane. Somehow the American girl who's on the second leg, she got the leg. She thought USA winning 4 and Great Britain winning 5. So she ended up basically, the American who was in lane 5, because she was like half a meter ahead of me, she ended up switching lanes and cutting in front of me. And I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And it was just pure calamity. And yeah, they still got the baton round. I think they finished 2nd or 3rd. And then we were like, we have to keep running regardless. So me and Emma, we ended up changing the baton, and we finished like dead last. And like we were kicking off. European athletics were kicking off because they wanted a rerun, and I was just like, yeah, we want a rerun. USA wanted a rerun because they wanted to obviously win and also get the money. And I think like Jamaica won, Russia came 2nd or 3rd, maybe no, not Jamaica, the Caribbean. I think it was like not North America, but South America with the Caribbean countries. So yeah, it was just calamity, and we were annoyed, and I was annoyed, and I was just so peed off because that was an opportunity to get a whole heap of cash. But again, a learning curve.
Yep. So particularly with the relays, with the 4x1, is there a particular leg which you like? Right.
I probably enjoyed 2nd and 3rd leg more. I started out, I was heavily experiencing all of the legs themselves. I did my whole career in the 4x1, and I ran every single leg, and not many athletes did that. Whereas I was one of few who did. So probably, but later on in the years, especially as I was moving before I moved to the 400, it was definitely second leg or third leg, and I guess because the team had just changed so much, Ashley was always starting off first, and then it was whoever could do anchor. Everyone wanted the anchor leg. Everyone wanted that glory leg. Whereas I could be placed anywhere. So because I was, doing really well in the 200, it would make sense for me to go the longest leg. So second leg, I enjoyed it. It allowed me to come out of my comfort zone, to be honest, as it always does, because not every race goes the way you want it to, but it was always second leg, second leg, second leg. Sometimes I'd do third leg. I did it in the Diamond League in 2014 when we broke the then British record in Zurich. So that was off third leg. But yeah, I think second or third. Second leg is probably my favourite, I think, to be honest, because you're just running straight. But yeah, second leg.
Yeah, so when I was talking to Martin Rooney, he said sometimes with the relay teams it could be a bit odd. It's kind of what you just mentioned about everyone wants the anchor leg. There could be arguments like I want this leg, I want that leg, or get what you're given, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Sometimes. So so you got like another silver in the relays. Was it Commonwealths again? I'm trying to think, or Europeans.
I got it. If it's the same year, 2006, I got a European silver.
Yeah. So after you got that European silver, was you just saying to yourself, I've got to get gold next"?
Yeah. That and many other things. I think because I got the European medal and I got the Commonwealth medal in the same season. I was only one of two athletes, I think, that season. No, three. There was three athletes that season to win back-to-back medals in both championships. So that was, an amazing achievement in itself. But I definitely wanted more, 100%. That was my first senior year, my first breakthrough year, being on the senior team. And you always, once you're there, I always say to young athletes coming through, it doesn't always matter what you do to get there. You just need to get there. So be it a Worlds or Olympics, World Championships, Commonwealths, it doesn't matter what the standard is. Don't look at who you're up against. Just go out there and perform to the best of your ability, especially when you're young. Like, there's so much expectation on you to go there and perform, but no one's asking you to go there and become world or Olympic champion, over the space of, the rounds or a few days or in one season. But it definitely gave me food for thought moving forward. And it definitely allowed me to have an understanding about the things I want to do and aim for the next season.
Yeah. So in 2006 was a decent year, good year for you. So was it at the Beijing for the relays, was it more of a case of other girls being on form?
2008 was a season where everyone stepped up. 2007, I kind of got left behind. I wasn't having a great season. And then 2008, everyone stepped it up, like everyone. The 4x1, women's 4x1 had just had this new wave of like girls who were just like coming through, and everyone's performing really well. So before I could make the team with 11.4, 11.5, whereas now it's literally like 11.2, 11.3, 11.2 on average. So because everyone was stepping it up in the 100, me and my coach basically decided, okay, what is going to get you the individual going into the Olympic Games? And we made the decision it was going to be the 200. So, I was running PBs, but they would all, back then he had A standard, B standard. So I kept running B standard, 23.1, 23.1, 23.1. The A standard was like 23.05, I think it was back then, maybe 22.9, 1995, something like that. So I'd run 23.2, 23.1, 19, 18, 23.3, but I'd never get close enough to the A standard. Unfortunately, I didn't get the individual at the Olympics, but I did go as part of the 4x1. And it was difficult to not have my moment in the stadium in Beijing. But again, I'm glad I went to that, because it was unfortunate for the girls not to medal in the relay, because that was the girls' opportunity to actually come away with an Olympic medal. And sometimes opportunities like that you're not going to get again. So moving forward, it can be extremely difficult. But I think being there and being your first Olympics, being surrounded by all these incredible athletes, being able to understand your sport and work out how you're going to develop, and understanding, just asking yourself questions like, what is it going to take for you to not miss the boat again? Because it's heartbreaking to go there, but then it's heartbreaking to go there and not compete. But it's even worse when you got to sit there and actually question and reflect, what are you going to do moving forward? So I think because I was there, and then because I was sharing with my good friend Christina Hurigu, watching her, being inspired by her and her journey, and then speaking to her coach Lloyd at the time, who'd his untimely death, that was a shock to everyone in the sport. So speaking to him and getting feedback from him, he was like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be average, or do you want to be great? These are the questions you have to ask yourself, and look at your surroundings, look at your environment. Look, is this something that you want to do? If you don't, then you can just go and find something else to do. If not, then make the move to London, which is what I did after Beijing Olympics.
So a lot of boxers, they watch their fights back. Is watching races back, that's something you've done before?
Gosh, only if I'm trying to make the next round. I don't really watch it back. I get sometimes, honestly, and it was, most athletes should. I would recommend, because I didn't do it in the early years. I hated watching my races back. Hated it, because you always dissect every last little thing that you do from start to finish. Like, to you, it looks like poor, but to someone else it may look like amazing. It may look average. It may look the way it's supposed to look. But I think I was always really harsh on myself when it came to competing, because no one wants this more than you. You're trying to put a race together, and you're on the hunt and you're searching for perfection, and you're not always going to get it. But I think it's good to also sit back and just analyze races thereafter, so you can have an understanding about what went wrong, what changes do you need to make, sit down with your coach. What are the ways in which you can develop? Sometimes, as you know, in the 100, it can be the tiniest mistake and, the race is gone. So what do you need to do in order to not make that mistake again? So I definitely think in the early years that was something I used to, and I was never fond of. But then later years, working with some of the best coaches, I was able to just be like, okay, this is what I need to do. Like, let me look at the technical aspects of it, so I can have an understanding about my sport.
So all the way back in 2005, when London was announced, was you saying to yourself, I've got to be there, or was it more of a, I've got 7 years, I'll be okay? What kind of?
Do you know what? I was happy when London won the Olympic bid. It seems like a lifetime ago, even 2005 to 2012. Like, we had 7 years, but it was definitely my aim to be at London 2012. I didn't know how, but I think everything that we do in sport, and especially in track and field, it's measured by numbers. So you automatically know as soon as we won the bid, it was like, okay, cool. So we got 7 years. We're 7 years out. You're going to be this old. You're going to be running this time. Like, let's look at your trajectory between now and then, So by the time you get to 2012, you're going to be running this, and this. And you're going to have so much bags of experience under your belt. And, at that point, you're like, okay, I'm going to be world or Olympic champion, or at least a finalist. And it doesn't always work like that. So yeah, watching 2012, when we won the bid in 2005, it was definitely something that was on my radar.
So what was it like when you when you done the British record at the Diamond League in 2014? Was it Zurich?
Yeah, Zurich.
What was that? Must have been special for you.
Yeah, it was. It was incredibly special. It was incredibly special for so many moments. 2013, I had a great season, but then when I got to Moscow World Champs, I got injured, so I pulled my plantaris, so I had to have surgery and then rehab. So then, fast forward a year later, I PB'd in the 200 in the Commonwealth, got 2 medals at the Commonwealth, went to Europeans and got the gold medal along with the team in the 4x1. I wasn't part of the final, but I was, so happy for the girls to come away with another British record, because the whole 4x1 team was on fire that year. Like, you had 8 to 10 girls to choose from. I was getting pushed out. There was a massive age gap. Like, the girls at the time were averaging 20, 21, and then you got me. I'm like 28 at the time, maybe. So yeah, there was just a huge amount of depth that was coming through. And yeah, so to go to Zurich and to be like, okay, to go back to Zurich 2 weeks later after we won the European medal and to break the British record again, I was actually tired. I think all the girls were. We were all tired. We were all exhausted. We had, still had like 3 or 4 competitions to do at the end of the season. But I never, ever, ever take any race for granted, even after the championship. Some athletes will be drinking and partying at the end after each meet, even when you got between races, whereas I'm just like, no, because you don't know when you're going to get this again. Anything could happen. You don't want to get injured. Like, there's loads of time to party and turn up once the season's done. So when we got to Zurich, I was pleasantly surprised to see that we got the British record again. And I was ecstatic, making history with the team. It was an amazing achievement. So yeah.
Yeah. And would you say the medals that you got previously, like a month before in the Commonwealth, did that kind of stead you lot on to get that British record?
I think it was because the team was running well that season anyway. So we had, world relays, we had various Diamond League competitions we were competing in. Then we had Commonwealths where the team, did really well, got a bronze medal there. And then when we got to Europeans, I think the gold was probably ours to lose, because I think we were going into Europeans as top 5 maybe in the world, and I think number 1 in Europe. If not, no, I think maybe number 2, because I think the German team were always controversial, only because they would never really race. They would always put on good performances, like good races, break, national record or break, a track record or whatever. So they would always run 42 low or 42 low they would run, but they would only ever do it in Germany. So they were going in as like European number 1, whereas like the women's 4x1 team on a GB team were consistent. We were like 42.6, maybe 42.5 was like the slowest time. Maybe it's 42.5 was like the slowest time. So to go from like, years prior, we were barely breaking 43 seconds to now we're doing 42.2, 42.2, 42.1, thereafter. And then obviously it's just been a continuation of that ever since. So I just think, moments like that have allowed the team to develop, but it's also brought out a lot of new faces to the squad as well.
Yeah. So in the sprinting, obviously you got Carmelita, you got skippers, Fraser Price. Who would you say is your favorite sprinter apart from yourself when you was running?
Favorite?
Or just the best, maybe.
The best. I mean, Carmelita was always fire.
Yeah.
Like I actually had her on my podcast last year, and she was incredible because she always had something going on that no one would know about, but she would always kind of keep it to herself. But she knew when she got to the start line, she had a job to do, no matter what. So like lining up against her in London, 2012, I was also going through a loss. I was going through a loss of my father. He passed away 6 months prior. But Carmelita, she lost her grandmother a couple of months prior, and she was going through a dark moment. Oh no, not her grandmother, sorry, apologies. I think it's her auntie. I think she lost her aunt to breast cancer. So Carmelita, she was saying she was going through those dark moments. She didn't want to run anymore. She just pretty much gave up. And because she had like Coach Smith, who was there for her, she had her friends and family who were able to help her, get back on the horse essentially and make the team for London. and then doing all those diamond leagues that we were doing that season. Carmelita always brought her A game. Carmelita, Shelly Ann, like these girls never got tired. Like I said, in the off season, post championships, a lot of athletes start to get slow. Carmelita would never get tired. She broke the second fastest time in the world in September. And Shelly Ann never got tired either. And it was the same with like Veronica Campbell, Karen Stewart, Lauren Williams, all these girls back then who were just incredible. So I do miss the 100 meters, but I'm glad I made the decision to step up, because I was never going to be as quick as those girls. But the 400 allowed me to be far more successful.
Yep. So when I was running, playing football, whatever it was, martial arts, when I had my dad there, especially, I would get a bit nervous. What was it like for you if you had family at your races? Does that help you, encouragement, or is it a bit nervous, sort of?
I mean, I always get nervous for every single race. There's not one race I ever did where I'm just like, whatever, innit? There was never that. And I think if you are one of those athletes who step on the line and you don't feel any nerves, I don't know why you're in the sport, because you're supposed to. It doesn't matter who you're up against, like nerves and are good. You're excited to go out there and perform. In terms of family and like friends or fans or whatever, like sometimes I knew they were there, so my family would always come to British champs. If we were competing abroad, my family would never come. But if it was like UK, say London Diamond League, Birmingham Diamond League, Birmingham National Champs, Manchester Trials back in the day, my family were always there. So I loved having them there. I really, really did. I didn't always hear them, but I knew they were there. And those are the moments that I really, really liked. They're not just sitting at home watching it on the BBC, like they're actually in the stadium watching it, and they're showing their support and they're showing their love. I never thought about, I'm going to embarrass my family if I have a bad race. It's only afterwards I'd be like, I wish I'd ran quicker or whatever. But my family would be proud of me no matter what. And sometimes it's hard to block out noise and stuff. But I think over the years it definitely got easier. So still talking like I'm an athlete. I had the same routine. So I would always, once we got out from, the call room to out on the stadium, whether I'm starting at the 200, 100 meters, 400 start line with the officials, I would never look into the crowd ever. So you get fans screaming your name. You get people trying to distract you. You got so much going on. And the most important thing is that you're out there to get a job done. So, and you could get out there and you've only got like 90 seconds to set your blocks up and, kit off and get ready to get in the start line. And then sometimes you're out there waiting for a good 15 minutes, 17 minutes, because the race in front of you is delayed. Someone's false started. There's a technical issue. So it's so easy to just like get distracted and wander into your own thoughts. But most of the time, I just always look up or look down. That was always my thing. I would never look directly at people's faces. Sometimes I'd even smile or have conversations with the kit people, the kit carriers, because I was like that. I was a kit carrier back in the day. Like when we used to have like GB competitions in Wavertree, in Liverpool, I was a kit carrier. So, I was inspired by these people to be like, whoa, what's it like to compete for the country, and the kit carriers were always super nice because we were all kids. So you want to be able to have those same emotions and same feelings with, these kids who were essentially going to be inspired by you. So I do miss those moments being in the stadium, but most of the time I just was super nervous, but never really thought about family and friends whilst I was there.
Yeah. So I noticed that you actually won quite like a few medals still into your 30s. So would you say you got better with age? Or...
Yeah, I think I definitely did. Switching events to the 400 helped a lot. But as you get older, you also need to remember that you're not the same athlete you were when you were like 18, 21, 23. Those years are behind you. But there's no reason why you can't still get the best out of yourself and out of your body. And I think the 400, well, I know the 400 brought me so much more longevity than I could ever imagine. And then because of this, I had a really good coach who was able to allow me to adapt to having a really good nutritional diet. So my diet changed a lot. Like self-care in terms of sleep management, just being able to understand my body a lot more, understand the training. The shift from the 200 to the 400 wasn't that much of a big leap. Don't get me wrong, I would get nervous and want to be sick every time I was on the start line for the 400. But because I was so strong and powerful, and I carried a lot of speed, I think I was one of the few athletes who was able to adapt to the 400 pretty well. And also do it not just at an older age, but also in a short space of time. Sometimes it takes athletes years to develop into a quarter miler, whereas because I'd had, sprinting backgrounds from doing the shorter sprints, moving into the 400 was, it was something that I didn't really need to think too much of. And I enjoyed it as well. I really enjoyed it. So because of that, and again, still maintaining all the technical speed sessions, and it wasn't a case of me doing, loads of speed endurance, loads of like cardio work. Like I literally just carried on from everything I was doing from being a sprinter, still maintaining that because I was still running 200s as well as 400s. And then once I'd moved slowly to the 400, it was just about adapting and making those small changes.
Yep. So in 2014 in Zurich, the team got the gold. So you ran in the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Did you run in the heat? So
Yeah.
So was there a particular reason why you didn't run in the final? Or
ask the relay coaches. No, I don't know if there was a particular reason. I think management just decided this is the team that they're going with, and I was annoyed and frustrated. I wanted my moments, and everyone does, and I wasn't looking for no glory leg. I just wanted to play my part, and going into the Europeans, because I was on such a high from the Commonwealth Games, because I come away with a PB in a 200 and two medals in two separate events, two relays. Not many people can say that they got two medals in two relays. But I was one of those people who did, thankfully. So to then go to Europeans, and I'm already going there, not getting the individual. So now I'm like, okay, I'm on the 4x1 team. I'm also kind of on the 4x4 team, but the team I probably won't run anyway, but more than likely 4x1. So to go there, and you're basically a spectator because you're training every day, you're watching all the other athletes compete, and then you're just waiting for your moment, and then you get your moment, you get to run in the heat, but you also know everything that you do in this race for you will reflect if you're going to get selected. Will be a reflection on whether you're going to get selected for the final. Because like I said, that particular season, everyone was on fire. Like all the girls were running well. Everyone was just like killing it. So yeah, that was the team that they went with, and I don't know what would have happened. I think we would have won anyway. I'm confident to say we would have won if I was in the race. Was I happy for the team? Yes. Was I annoyed? Of course. But then to go back 2 weeks later and then, get another British record with the team, that was me having my moment. So it was a bit of redemption. Let's call it redemption.
Yep. And with that redemption, obviously at the Worlds the following year, so we're 2015 now, Beijing. So was it obviously you got the bronze we're going to 4x4 now. And Jamaica got like a world lead. They ran like 3:19 something, and then America came second. Was it more of a case of them just being too good that year? There was a bit of a gap.
Yeah, if anyone's followed the women's 4x1 for years, I really haven't. I have, I knew USA and Jamaica were always battling. Sometimes even Russia, prior to them, finally getting done for being drug cheats, they were always up there in the mix. It was like USA, Jamaica, Russia, maybe Ukraine. And then 2015 kind of came, and I think post 2014, the women's 4x4 had actually been doing really well. Did they win Europeans? got gold or second. 2013 they got a world championship medal as well. So I think post 2013, post 2012, the women's 4x1, they were actually on the medal for every podium. I think it has a lot to do with some of the athletes who were previously on drugs are no longer in the sport anymore, or were banned or serving a ban at the time. So it allowed all the athletes who we believe to be clean to now have their moment where they're not just going there and making the first round, but they're making finals and they're finishing top 6, top 5, top 3, which is what was happening with the women's 4x4 previously. So now the girls are stepping up, and then we get to world champs, and that was like my first 4x4, and I was going to be sick. I was super nervous. I really was, because it was my fourth world championship. It was my fourth world championship. And I'd never won a medal in the 4x1 ever. So to go to my fourth world championships in a new event, I'd PB'd in the 400 and to come away with a bronze medal was fantastic. And it was an amazing achievement. And then, you were saying Jamaica were always going to have their own little battles between themselves, because they're just that good. But hopefully moving forward, the British girls will be able to step up and start running the 319s like the USA, like Jamaica.
Yeah, that's it. And then the year after, the Europeans in Amsterdam, you got the gold in the 4x4. Did it feel even sweeter that was a world lead, 2016?
You know what? I didn't even know it was a world lead. I keep forgetting, because it's more world leads are great, but there's an expiration date on them, because anyone can just come and beat them. We didn't know we got a world lead. I think we were just more concerned about getting the medal. I think my focus that particular championship was getting a medal in the 400 and also the 4x4. And because my 400 went exceptionally well, I was just on cloud 9. So like that was actually a race that I had so much fun in. Like, we were set to win the gold, but I had work to do, and I was going to enjoy this, like, running down second leg, and I was just super confident. I was just on a high, and I know how confident I am, because when I was, when you're on second leg and then you break down the back straight, and I got us into a comfortable position in first place, and then I kind of started to just pull away slightly. There was a screen. There's two screens. Okay, there's the two screens that are on each turn. I looked up at the screen when I was on the back straight, and I was like, Anyika, what are you doing? And I was like, no, just go with it. So I took a quick glance just to see where everyone was, and then when I hit the turn, I just started to build up, and then when I got to the home straight, just started to pull away, and it just felt nice and smooth, just to make that nice transition. And as tiring as fatiguing as it was, I just remember just being like, yeah, I'm confident. This is what it feels like. This is what being confident is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to come out in your performance. And with that, we were able to get the gold.
Yeah. So seeing you do 100, 200, 400, 4x1, 4x4, have you got like a favorite out of them?
A favorite event?
Favorite event out of them?
You know what? No one's ever asked me that before. I don't know if I have. I don't know. I like the 100 was where it all started. So I'd like to say that was my original baby, but it actually wasn't. But then I love the 200 because I just love the 200. The 400 I didn't always love, but I learned to adapt to it. Probably the 200.
Yeah,
I had a lot of good moments in every event, but I think the 200 was the one. And as good as I was in I'd like to think I was good in the 100. I never became British champion in the 100. I became British champion twice in the 200 and twice in the 400. So, so I think the 200 was my favorite event, I think. And in terms of relays, I like them both. I don't have one in particular. Probably the 4x4 that got me more medals. To be honest, I was able to get a lot of medals with the 4x4.
Yeah. So going back to 2015 after the Worlds, obviously you was very unwell. at that point, was you thinking, am I ever going to get back on the track again, or was you kind of staying positive through your being unwell, malaria?
Yeah, I was definitely staying positive. It was never a case
Mm,
of there's no ifs, there's no buts. Like I have to make this work. Like I just have to find a way.
mm,
And like track and field was my life. I was on a high from 2015. Like it couldn't have gone any better, you know, to make that change and make leaps and bounds into this new event where, you know, a lot of people actually ripped me off in the 400. They were like, there's no way Anyika's going to do this. There's no way she's going to drop this time. I would never toot my own horn. That was one thing I never did in my career. I was always one of them people where I'm just be like, okay, well, if that's your opinion, it is what it is. You don't know me, you don't know what I'm capable of. Um, but just watch. So that's what I did. So 2015, you know, won became British champion, won the national trials for to go to Beijing World Champs. Was winning PBs thereafter. So I was in great shape, and then to go to World Champs and then medal and won a PB as well. Like 2016, going into 2016, I couldn't have been in a more favorable position. So to contract malaria and then have, you know, the doctors and consultants tell me I will, you know, you may never run again. It was
mm,
absolutely heartbreaking. It was
yeah,
heartbreaking. It was tough. It was something that I didn't know if I was going to recover from, but I knew deep down I just had to make it work. I had to try. And I don't like getting distractions. I'm just so professional. I'm fully focused on what I have to do. I don't like people getting, you know, I don't like being bombarded with too much information. So when it came to that was one of the reasons why I didn't tell anyone. Like my coach knew, and some of the medical team, some of the British medical team knew, and my some of my training partners knew as well. But I didn't tell the majority of like the 4x1 or 4x4 girls or
mm,
other athletes who I'm friends with, because what's the point? Like you
mm,
can't do nothing to help me anyway. Like let me recover. I don't need one of them. I'm not one of them people where I need sympathy. I don't like it. I'm just going to be like, okay, there's a plan of action, and this is what we need to do. So let's plan this. Like let's break it down. So because I had this plan with the consultants and with the medical team, you know, the consultants actually said, like, you won't be back until a good 12, maybe 16, 14, 16 weeks.
mm,
And I was back in 4, 5.
mm,
Um, Again, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, everything that we do in the sport is measured by time. But this is different. So it's not an injury where, you know, you've broke a leg or torn a hamstring or, you know, you got an Achilles injury. Like this is your health.
mm,
So it's completely different. So it was done in a way that was the recovery was done in a way that was manageable, but also effective. So I was able to take rests in between, like longer rests in between reps, and I literally had to start to walk again, and then because walking was tiring, skipping was tiring, jogging was tiring,
mm,
but then once I built up, you know, my immune system again, and then kind of developed into not develop, but I'd start to, you know, build muscle because I kind of lost a lot of muscle. I literally lost like 5, 6 kilos as well. So that was difficult. That was extremely difficult. So having to put all that weight back on, not back on, but, you know, maintain the weight,
mm.
and then just kind of get back. Um, those moments taught me a lot because I understood what it was like to fight, and I definitely did a lot of fighting
Mhm.
to recover and then to also make the team as well in
Yeah.
2016.
And what was it like coming back only 10 months later and getting the bronze? 'Cause it must have been.
Oh, that was definitely a moment.
Mm,
I think looking back now, I knew you could never replicate that you couldn't replicate those moments. I'm not saying in the sense of catching malaria or anything like that. I'm just saying in the sense of like being in that shape and having everyone in shape, and you know,
mm,
going there and actually knowing that you're going to medal and you're not coming back without a medal. Because
mm.
after I was told I'm not going to get the individual spot in Beijing in Rio,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, that's cool. Like, like, let's just fight for this medal in Rio because it was the last one in the set for me. Selfishly, I wanted the full set. As a British athlete, the full set is collecting every medal, European, Commonwealth, World, and European medalist. And there's only a few people to have ever done it in the sport. So I really wanted to tick that box off at the Olympic Games. It was my third Olympics, third time's a charm. I've gone through hell to even get there, let alone make the team. So I'm not accepting anything less than. So because of that, I was able to tell myself, like, yeah, you're capable of anything. And I told the girls before we went out there and race, I was like, I don't give a damn about no one. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to fight for this medal. Like, don't get distracted. Like, let's go and make history. And that's exactly what we did.
That's it. So when you got the 400-meter bronze at Amsterdam, I was going to ask, would you have been a bit gutted if you retired with no individual senior medal? Because that was your first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Okay. And I was like 31 at the time, maybe 30, 31. Would I have been gutted? Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I think I would have been. But there were also a lot of athletes, a lot of senior athletes who, senior sprinters, both sprints, short sprints and longer sprints, who literally get all their medals from relays. There are a lot of them, for example, Mark Lewis Francis didn't win any individual medals, but he's Olympic champion.
He got one.
Oh, sugar, sorry. That's a bad example because Mark could kill me flipping it. Sorry, he did. Sorry, you got Europeans and...
Oh, I'm not putting this out no more if Mark sees it.
Oh, gosh. Sorry, Mark. That's a bad example. Okay, I can't remember anyone else. I should do, and I should be able to. But there's basically the point I'm trying to make is that there's countless athletes, there's countless sprinters who don't medal at individual, but become world Olympic champions in the relays, both 4x1 and 4x4. It happens all the time, and it's going to continue to happen. It is just the way it is. You could go the next 4 years, 5 years, 6 years being ranked top 10 in the world, always making finals, like consistently making finals, finishing top 8, top 6, top 5, just missing out on medals. But then in the individual, when it comes to relays, you're always killing it. It's just how it works. But 2016, I knew what was on the line in Amsterdam. I knew what I was up against, and I knew I was in great shape. So I was confident that I was gonna not just pull this off, but I was just gonna come away with a medal, and I did. And I fought for that medal, and it was my first individual medal as well. And selfishly, it was nice not to share it with 3 other girls because you do this for you at the end of the day. The relay is just a bonus. So to be on the podium, and I'm just with the girls who got the gold and the silver, because I got the bronze medal. It's nice, you're thinking, oh well, I don't have to share space with people. I don't have to be considerate towards other people. Like, let me just have the moments and just kind of have the limelight for a bit. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed moments like that.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, you kind of sort of answered it. I guess your favorite Olympics would be the 2016, because that was when you got the medal in. Obviously, you had to come back from your illness. That would have been your favorite to be at, would you say?
Yeah, I think the Olympic medal is my favorite medal, and because everything that I'd gone through as well personally, like my personal journey, through the sport, through the years, everything it took for me to even make it, working with different coaches, traveling to different, training setups and working with different people, adapting to the change of your environment, the people around you, the training group, location. There was so much involved, but I wouldn't have changed it for a second.
Mm-hmm. So would you go into coaching?
I would. I still do coach in, kind of. I do a lot of mentoring with young athletes, a lot of young girls in different sports, so not just athletics. So I get people asking me to do a lot of inspirational talks, and a lot of developing with young athletes coming through in various sports, especially young girls, because back in my day, and I'm not just saying that because I'm slightly older, but you know we were a lot more active. Like I said, me and my siblings would drive my mum and dad mad because every summer or after school we'd be doing some form of activity. Whereas kids nowadays, it's like you've got technology which is so much far advanced, and you've got everyone's accessible. So you're on social media all the time, or you're coming home and you're streaming, Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever, or you're sitting in front of the computer playing a computer game. So I think it takes a lot to force kids to do a physical activity and also have an understanding of just socializing with other people. So yeah, I definitely do like to help, young kids into that. In terms of coaching in the sport, I don't know. I just don't. I feel like I'd be okay in it. No, I think I'd be good in it. But I was never the most patient person towards my coaches. So can you imagine me now having to like have this full circle moment? I coach kids in schools and in organizations, not kids, but adults, if they want me to do like a wellness thing with them, like do some sprinting or some physical activity with them. And it's just like their concentration levels are just different, Some of them are really competitive, some of them aren't. And I'm just like, well, I haven't got time for this. I don't want to, like, if you're not going to concentrate, like, why am I here? But I think with kids, I do hope that, kids do continue to be inspired by a lot of us, people like me who've come through in the sport, the current crop of athletes who are on the team doing exceptionally well. And I think it's important to kind of watch, all these, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to watch the Tokyo Olympics this year. Because that's how the dream started for me. Like, I was watching the Olympics in '96, Linford Christie, when he won his Olympic gold. I was watching Denise Lewis win her Olympic gold in Sydney when I was in school. I was like 14, 15. And kids need to be inspired by these people, because it's no different than, young girls and boys being inspired by David Beckham, watching him in the World Cup, or Lionel Messi, or Steven Gerrard. Like, you can be inspired by all these footballers. So why is it not the same for all these Olympians who are, who are British, and just out there killing it, like winning medals? Like, that's how you inspire the next generation. So if it wasn't for the people who came before me, I would never be where I would never have achieved all I did in the sport.
Yeah. So in athletics, would you say, have you ever experienced any sexism?
Sexism? Yes. Yeah. You want an example?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Sexism. Let's see.
It could be online as well, because you know what trolls can be like.
I don't care about them. That block button is just my favorite. Block, mute. I don't care about none of that. I know a lot of athletes find it hard to come away, because some of them are just super addicted to social media. Whereas when I used to compete, I literally just used to have a blackout. I'm like, social media is still going to be there when I compete. Some people will be tweeting and doing Instagram between rounds, and I'm just like, each to their own at the end of the day. But yeah, you're there to do a job. Like, these people are still going to be there for you when you come out, regardless of how you do. But that's another conversation for another day. Sexism. Okay, so for example, like, sometimes I used to compete. This is back in the day, so I don't know if it happens as much now. Back in the day when I used to do the smaller meets, there used to be a lot of smaller meets. So you go to Germany, you go to Holland, you go to Ukraine, all over Europe, France, you go to all these European countries, and the money wouldn't be as big as the Golden League. So I think Golden League, they paid like 20K, 30K. There was a lot of money back then, like I was saying. So in the lower ranked meets, in these meets in Europe, you would have let's say that you got a women's 100 and a men's 100, and and the men's 100 will be a premium race, but the women's 100 won't. So the men's prize money for the winner will be, first place is 5k, second place is 4, 3, 2, 800, a grand or whatever, and then going down. Whereas the women's prize money would be 2.5k, and the women's race might be a better performance than the men's based on the lineup and the performance itself, blah 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 blah. And then the women in that sense would get paid less. So you come away with a great performance, but you'd only end up with like less than a grand or a couple of thousands or whatever. And then sometimes, which used to happen to me, it happened to me like 2 or 3 times. Again, because you're a sprinter, and because you're not male, sometimes like the meet directors just won't pay you. Like it literally says, oh yeah, like the men get paid this amount, women get paid this amount. Why it's not equal? Because they would be like, oh well, the men's 100 is always a premium race, the men's 200 is always a premium race. One time I cleaned up, I won the 100, the 200, got the track record for the 100 meters, got the meet record for the 100 meters. I think this is when I ran my PB in Germany countless years ago. I got the track record in the 200. Anyway, I cleaned up that day. I was on cloud 9. I was so happy. And back then, like, they would pay you in cash after the meet. So you'd line up in the hotel or in one of the rooms in the stadium, and you go in one by one with your passport and your ID and the meet organizer. And one of the Jamaican boys or American guys who was in the line before me, he was like, oh, congratulations on your performance, you're about to get paid. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Da, 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 da. He finished third in the 100, third or fourth, flew all the way from Chicago or somewhere, came in, and he was telling me, he came away with like money, whatever it was. And when it came to me now, the meet organizer basically said, yeah, we're only going to pay you for the 100 meters. We're not going to pay you for the 200. I was like, what? Because I was going to clean up that meet. That was like, it was only a low level meet, but like they basically took it upon themselves to be like, well, we're not going to pay her because she's not a big name. She's not this, she's not that. And it was not a whole of like, oh, congratulations on your performance. It was just like, we're going to make the decision to not pay you because we just don't want to. So I was obviously, upset. I was calling my agents at the time. I was like, I'm not leaving until I get paid. I couldn't speak German. They couldn't speak English. And I'm just like, I'm not paying. I'm not leaving. Da, 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 da. And in the end, they ended up only paying me for the 100 meters for the track record and the meet record. And they didn't pay me for the 100. So there was bonuses on top. And I was so annoyed and I was so angry. And people don't realize it. It used to happen a lot, and it used to happen to a lot of women. It happens to a lot of the girls in the sport. And I know every event's different. And I know, looking back, I just feel like I should have done more. But I definitely felt like I was taken advantage of. I mean, I was taken a whole heap of advantage of in my career. I always look back on that and thinking, why did that happen? Like, why didn't I speak up and say that? But in moments like that, you just think, oh, well, you don't want to be seen as problematic. You don't want to be seen as like the angry black woman, all these traits that as black people, especially as a black woman, we tend to carry. So you just try to brush it aside and just be like, okay, well, I'm just never going to turn up to your meet again. Whereas like the Anyika now is like, no, that's wrong. Based on principle and morals alone, you should be able to pay me, what you owe me, So.
Yeah, that's how it should be. Because even in athletics, we see female commentators, don't we? And even in football, we're seeing more of them. So
yeah,
it's a shame.
It is different world, but hopefully the world's changing, or we'd at least like to see the world changing anyway.
Yeah, it's 2021 now. So if you wasn't a sprinter, what would you be doing?
What, in day-to-day life or in another sport or?
Career.
Well, I studied economics at university in Liverpool, and I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I didn't want to be one of those athletes who went from doing sports as a professional career to then studying it in education in uni. And then my father, who was the matriarch in my household, he always put his foot down with, me and my brother, who was a former footballer, and was like, you have to get an education. Nigerian and West African parents are like, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, you got to have, got to be an engineer, dentist, you got to have a high flying, well paid job. And, education was always important to my father. He was an accountant. So for me to study economics was a no-brainer for him. But I also enjoyed learning about business and learning about how things move and shift in the economy. And it allowed me to stimulate my mind. So once I graduated, I moved to London. So after the Beijing Olympics, I moved to London to train with Lloyd Cowan and Christine Bowmaker. I was actually offered an internship at HSBC in Canary Wharf. They had like this athletes program that they wanted to do, and it was going to be for like 3 to 6 months, something like that. And it was a part-time internship. And I regret it. I regret not taking it. And the reason being was because when they offered me the internship, I was about to leave for Los Angeles the next few days for around 8 to 10 weeks. Like the training camp we were going to be there for was long. Like we left in March and was back in May, end of May. So I was going to be gone for ages. And they were like, yeah, we can't allow you to take that much time. So I couldn't commit to it. So I always wished I'd gone back to it.
Yeah. This is something which I should have asked at the start. When you began athletics, when I was playing football, when I was doing athletics, when I was doing karate, there was times where I could bet karate, for example, could be fighting against someone who's older than me, maybe a few inches taller. So was there ever time you was running against maybe girls, remember, maybe a year older than you, more experienced, stronger, and did it kind of get you not down, but at the time you think, yeah, I need to step up now, do more work in the gym? That's your early career.
Early career, I would definitely think that in the beginning. Yes, there was definitely a whole heap of female athletes I was super intimidated by, like the British ones alone. But then when you get the opportunity to compete abroad and do all these junior races, competing against some of these great athletes. I raced against Marion Jones when I was like 20, 21. And I was like, wow, this is, I was intimidated by it, but it was more of a case of like, and this is before we obviously knew what happened with the whole going to prison and committing fraud and whatnot. But I was like, gosh, this woman, she was my idol, and she's just like tall. She's like 6'5", 6'4". She played basketball. She was super strong. She just come back from having a baby. And I was like, wow, that was super intimidating. And then competing against some of the other people as well. I think it can be, intimidating in the beginning. But then some of them are also scared of you because you're like the new kid on the scene. You're the one who's doing really well. They're like, oh, well, you're, someone to watch out for, stuff like that. But then what always strikes me is that, when I became a senior athlete through the years, people would always say to me, oh, I could always tell when certain people were scared of me, like all the time. And I'm not saying like, oh, I enjoyed it, because I'm not going to be like, rah, you know what I mean? I'm not going to like jump out or whatever. But because I was so strong, I was so powerful, and I just carried so much speed, people would automatically just be like, yeah, I'm not going to win this. So the last 2 years of my career, especially the last year when I wasn't really doing that well, people will come up to me and when they finish the race and they were in the same race as me and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I beat you. Like, you're like Olympic medalist and you got all these medals and you've achieved all these things. And I'm like, I'm sitting there heartbroken thinking, this is like the worst race ever. Like, what's going on? And you want to be happy for this person because like they're telling you, like, they followed your career and they've seen how well you've done in the sport for over the years. But at the same time, it's just like, you just feel dejected because you just had like such a crappy race. But then you remember that was you. Like, that was you. Like, I used to beat, some of the, big athletes coming through, like Donna Fraser, who I used to watch when I was a kid. I to beat her, people like her in the 200, was just like, I was like, whoa, okay, like this is real. And then to race against all these other great athletes as well when I was young, beating them. So now when the tables are turned, it doesn't mean you have to like it. You just have to remember, like, that's just how it is sometimes. So yeah, intimidated by some athletes, yes, but also again, just it's just part and parcel of the sport. You can't win every race, you can't beat everyone. You just got to take it on the chin and move on to the next.
That's it. It's funny you mentioned beating Fraser. Do you agree with me? So say if you're on the start line, you're up against like Carmelita, like skippers, Fraser Price. Do you believe that when you're looking down the line, you're saying to yourself, if I can beat like Carmelita, for example, then I got a chance of winning the race?
Carmelita never had an off day for the start. Shelly, I never had an off day. Most of the American girls never had off days. The only day they'd have off days is if they got a bad start. Sorry, if they got a false start, not a bad start. These girls were always on fire from start to finish. They could get a bad start and still win the race. You know? So I never really thought like that anytime. I would never I would never want any ill will towards any of my competitors because I'm trying to be great, but I'm also trying to get on their level. So it's not a case where I don't wish harm or bad mind on anyone. Like that's not who I am. That's not my character at all. In order for me to be the best, I need to compete with the best, and I want everyone on the start line, all 7 girls who I'm up against. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be just as focused and motivated as I am. Because ultimately, I need people like you to help me to become better. You know.
Yep. Has there ever been a race where like it's dead heat and you've dipped too early at the line?
Dip too early.
Well,
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's happened a few times. I'm sure of it. It probably has. I can't say I've done it often, but I definitely in the 200. No, probably in all the events. At some point, I always tend to do this. I close my eyes as I approach the finish line, and you think because you're trying to force yourself to the line as much as possible. You think if you dip and you shut your eyes, you're gonna get there quicker, and you're like, you're not. You're not. But yeah, there's probably been times, so many times. I used to do it a lot in the 200. Not dip too early. Probably dip too early more in the 400. But the 400 is a lot more clear. You can see who's winning or who's close by because, not everyone's going to be sprinting through the line. Some people carry lactic earlier and later than others. It used to happen probably more when you dip too early in the 100 or 200. So the chances are it happens quite a few times with me.
Yeah. And if Olympics happens this summer, and you think Asher Smith has got a chance of cleaning up?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. She's on form, she's running well. I'm trying to follow much of the sport since I've retired. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I've got my life to lead. Track and field was my life for 20 years. I was blessed to achieve a lot of things, and it was great to be a part of that generation where, it allowed me to establish myself as a world-class athlete, but I also want my own life. I don't want to be bombarded with all the goings on. The sport also changed so much. It's been a difficult year. I still speak to, quite a few of my teammates, who I'm close to, and they've just found it so difficult to even find locations to train in last year, let alone now, during winter. And I'm just glad I'm not in it. I'm glad I'm not, because I wouldn't be motivated to even go to Tokyo. Some athletes have retired last year that, as women as well, we go through different cycles. We want to work out when we want children. So we kind of want other things and want to prioritize different things. But I will definitely still be following the team. And I'm looking forward to watching Dina and everyone else kill it. Fingers crossed that they get to Tokyo.
Yep. So including the 400 bronze, you got, I think it's 12 medals. altogether? Some of your senior
12?
career. I think
Oh, wow.
something like that. Wait, I'm actually gonna find out now.
Okay.
One. Yep. So one. One Olympic bronze, one world bronze, one world indoor bronze, 2 European golds, 1 European silver, 2 European bronze, two Commonwealth bronze, and 1 Commonwealth silver. 3, 8. That's 11. 11. Sorry.
It's all right. Still double digit. I'll take that.
Yeah. So yeah, the question is: you have 11 medals. Are you proud of your athletics career? Are you happy with what you've
Immensely proud. Immensely
and
proud.
also have you overachieved? Would you say or
Over? No. I think I exceeded my own expectations.
that's good.
And I think I owe a lot of that to shifting events and to moving to the 400. I probably wouldn't have had any more medals in the 4x1 after 2014. I think that's fair to say, because it was just becoming a lot difficult to even make the team because the depths had become so big. And I think I was getting pushed out quite a bit in the 4x1 as well, which is fine. It worked out well because I then moved to the 400 and then became more badass. So I collected loads of medals in the 400, both outdoors, a few indoors as well. I got European. I wanted 1 medal and I got a world indoor medal. That was one of the medals where I'm like, yes, I'm going to be selfish. So I purely went to the world indoors in Birmingham to get a medal, and I did that. So I can't really complain, but I don't think I just wanted more. I really did. I wanted to make sure I achieved everything that I did in the sport. And like I say, I'm thankful for, being able to be, a handful of athletes who are able to achieve these big medals, on a global scale, these big championship medals, because not many people get to do that. Like, you can be world number 1 and not win Olympics, not win Commonwealths, not win, Europeans or whatever. You can become British champion and never become an Olympian. And I went to 3 and I medaled at 1 of them. So like I said, everyone's journey is different and everyone's trajectory is different. Mine was through a lot of blood and guts and heartache, and also allowed me to shift my focus and stay determined no matter what obstacle I was able to face and the different adversities I had to overcome. But ultimately just staying true to myself and allowing myself to enjoy every single moment. And I think despite everything I went through, I definitely did.
That's it. That's a nice closing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well done on a great career, and thanks for chatting to me. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
100% we will. Thank you, Anyika. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care.